Okay, so I think we're good to go. So today we're talking about Nebula. Nebula is our cloud-managed network solution. We'll go through here a bit as to how Nebula works, what it does. A good way to think about this is it's like Meraki from Cisco, only a lot more affordable. It's probably the best way to look at it. So if you're not familiar with Meraki, don't worry, we'll start explaining some of the benefits here. The short version is that by moving your network management to the cloud, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money. It's going to reduce the number of things you need to purchase. It's going to reduce the amount of time you spend configuring things and the amount of time you have to spend on site getting stuff up and running. So we'll start talking about individual features here. So one of the cool things with Nebula is you don't have to take the product out of the box to configure it. We've got a QR code that is on the outside of the box and is also simultaneously on the bottom of the product itself. So you use either of those two to scan the device, add them to a customer, and they become instantly manageable in Nebula through the cloud, even though they're not turned on. Once you do get them plugged in and turned on at the customer site, basically it's going to reach out to the cloud automatically, download any firmware updates, and download its configuration automatically. There is no local configuration that needs to be done. And by default, when you first set up a Nebula site, it's got most of the basic configuration stuff good to go. So once things plug in and turn on, you should have internet access and be working. So Nebula works through a cloud-based instance. The cloud is hosted in Amazon Web Services, which are probably the most reliable cloud server solution that's out there. So there's no cloud keys that you need, there's no local servers, there's no software that needs to be installed, there's no virtual machines that need to be run. The Nebula hardware itself will automatically reach out to the cloud and communicate with it. So there's nothing that needs to be installed other than the hardware itself. And basically from that point on, anything you need to do, you can access anywhere you've got access to a web browser. You can check the status of your customer sites, you can make configuration changes, you can generate reports, all through any standard web browser, regardless of where you are in relation to your networking equipment. We do also have a mobile app for your phone or tablet. The mobile app is primarily designed for installers that lets you take a look at what's going on the different networks that you might be managing, status of things, but you can use the app to scan those QR codes to add devices to your customer locations. When you're doing the installation, you can take photos of where the hardware is being installed. So later on, if you have to go back out and do a site visit because something's gone offline or you're having some sort of issue, you can easily look on your phone and see where that product was installed at and a photo of that area to help you narrow down which product you need to get to. Nebula has built-in captive portal guest access. We can do it just on our access points. You don't need an entire Nebula network to use this if you're just providing a captive portal for Wi-Fi. If you want to do it on wired devices as well, the captive portal functionality is built into our Nebula security gateways. And the captive portal is completely customizable. We've got sort of a what you see is what you get type editor to make some minor changes to the pages, but we also allow you to download the HTML and CSS files that you can customize to your heart's content and then re-upload to Nebula to host those pages for you. We can also point to a third-party captive portal solution if you want to do billing and things like that. And we have a number of different ways of doing the login. You can just agree to a terms of service. You can do Facebook login. You can have users use their own username and password, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of flexibility when it comes to captive portals. So one of the products that Nebula does is our access points. So we've got a complete family of Nebula access points that are out there. One of the cool features we have is something called Smart Mesh. So with Smart Mesh, access points that don't have a physical connection to the network will automatically create a mesh. If a node on that mesh goes down, they'll automatically reroute around it. And the cool thing with this is it works even if you've never plugged in that device ever. So it will still automatically be able to find a Nebula access point that does have an Ethernet connection even if you've never registered or booted up the access point before. Of course, we're supporting WPA2 enterprise security using 802.1x, so individual users have their own unique username and password. And we support all the industry standards for doing fast roaming, load balancing, as well as some of our own proprietary methods to work with legacy devices as well. So on the switch side of things, again, we've got a whole family, or a couple different families of switches. We've got our dedicated NSW Nebula switches, and also all of our 1920 V2 and 1930 series access switches are all what we call Nebula Flex, allowing you to use them with Nebula if you want to. So some of the cool features we offer is intelligent PoE. We monitor the actual power draw of the device rather than just relying on the device to classify itself to then allocate power. So with this intelligent PoE, you can fit a lot more devices onto a switch with the same power budget as you could without that. We also include, ACL rules, VLAN configuration, 802.1x authentication, DHCP server guard, all sorts of the switches that you would expect to see on a business class switch, including virtual switch stacking, allowing you to configure ports across multiple switches simultaneously. So one of the other benefits with Nebula is you get instant over-the-air updates. So as we fix bugs and update parts of the GUI, that automatically updates for you. So there's no firmware for that needs to be done. For new features that do require firmware updates, we will automatically push those out over the air. So there's no having to remote into your customer network or visit the customer site to do the upload. This can all be done on a schedule, so you tell Nebula when you want the updates to be done. When is okay for the guest network to your customer's network to temporarily go down as it applies the configuration changes. And as a general rule, we try to limit firmware updates to no more than one per quarter to minimize the amount of time that has to be spent doing these updates. So on the security side of things, we've got a number of NSG series security gateways. They're very similar to our USG series, but they're how should we put this? They're slimmed down and optimized just for the major features that most users are going to want to need and use. So not all of the functionality is there in the USGs. And again, you do not have to use an NSG gateway on your Nebula network. Nebula works just fine to just manage access points or just manage switches or some combination of those. So anyway, some of the cool things we do with the Nebula security gateway, since it's cloud managed, is the cloud handles setting up your VPN tunnels for you. Basically, you go in, choose the sites, designate how you want them connected, whether you want a star topology or point-to-point topology, click apply, and we'll take care of all the rest of the configuration that needs to be done to create the VPN tunnels between sites. So Nebula was designed for the ground up to make it easy for you to install and manage networks for multiple customers and multiple sites under those customers. So no matter who your customer is, you simply go to nebula.zyxel.com and you'll be able to quickly and easily find them and see what's going on their network. So we'll show here a little short example here. This is what you're going to see when you first log in. All of your customers, we'll call those organizations in Nebula. So you'll see a list of all of your customers there. It'll tell you whether they're using the free version of Nebula or the paid version of Nebula, how many sites each of your customers have, and the status on the devices that they have. From there on, you go ahead and click down to an individual customer, and it'll take you to this view here where you can see Google Map. So if they have multiple sites, you can have those sites visually represented where they physically are in the real world. And then, just like the other page there, we'll give you a breakdown of each individual site, giving you a quick snapshot of the health of the site and the number of devices and users on those sites. Once you click through to a specific customer site, you get taken to the dashboard here. So the dashboard gives you a quick snapshot of what's going on that network, as well as that's where you go in to do your configurations. So you can see there, you'll get a quick view of how many access points are online, how many switches are online, it'll let you know how many wireless users are currently on the network, your PoE budget versus what's actually being used, And then if you're using our NSG gateway, we can actually tell you on an application-by-application basis who and what is using up your bandwidth. We also make it really easy on a site basis for the drop-down menu to quickly jump between customers or sites underneath that same customer. And everything I've showed you to this point is 100% free. So unlike Meraki, where you have to have a license to use the cloud, you don't have to here. Unlike some of our others that competitors in the lower end space that maybe provide some sort of free service for maybe 1 or 2 devices, Nebula is free for all of our types of devices, gateways, switches, access points, and for an unlimited number of devices of each type, for an unlimited number of customers. So there are no real hard limits here, and all the main configuration features are available through the free Nebula Cloud. So again, I probably should have had this slide a little bit earlier. Nebula applies to our NSG series security gateways, our NSW series switches, our 1920 and 1930 series switches, and almost all of our access points, the NAP series access points, almost all of the current NWA access points, and all of our WAC access points. So we'll talk a little bit here about the free version of Nebula versus the Pro version. So for most of our devices that aren't dedicated Nebula devices, they use something that we call Nebula Flex. So Nebula Flex allows you to use our hardware the traditional method, standalone configuration, using SNMP, other tools like that for monitoring and things like that. And we allow you to switch them into Nebula mode for Nebula management or switch them back. So they're not locked into either or. So that's Nebula Flex. Nebula Flex Pro at the moment is just for our access points. And Nebula Flex Pro access points, in addition to standalone mode and Nebula mode, can also be managed through an on-site controller, whether it's one of our dedicated NXC controllers or whether it's the controller that's built in on our USG and UAG security gateways. In addition, with Nebula Flex Pro, you get at least 1 year of additional ProPack license, which is the paid version of Nebula. So in just a second here, we'll talk a little bit about that. So just again, when you're using whether it's Nebula Flex or Nebula Flex Pro, it makes it really easy to switch back and forth between Nebula managed mode and the more traditional mode. But do keep in mind there are some feature differences between standalone mode and Nebula mode, and configurations are not going to carry over between the 2 modes. So you're probably not something you're going to switch back and forth often, but maybe you'll take a product from a customer that's using Nebula, move them to want to use it at a different customer that doesn't want to use Nebula, so you can switch it back over to the standalone mode when that situation arises. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about the licenses. So again, the core functionality of Nebula is absolutely free for the life of the product, but we do also offer something called Professional Pack, which unlocks some additional features that are mainly aimed at the managed service provider market. So if you want to add those extra features, you do it by adding the ProPack license. So it gives you status alerts, so you can automatically have email alerts when hardware goes offline for a specified amount of time. It increases the amount of logs that we store for you. So the free version of Nebula stores a week's worth of logs. The paid version of Nebula stores a year's worth of logs. We also add in with Nebula Pro an audit log. So we'll track all configuration changes based on who made that change and when they made that change. So down the road, if you're troubleshooting something, you can find out who made the change and talk to them to find out why they made that change. We can generate custom reports. They can automatically be emailed to yourself or to your customer, and you can add your own logo to those reports so when you see them, they know it's coming from you. And we add a number of other different types of reports there. We add an automatic network topology view, where we'll automatically graph for you which hardware is plugged into which other hardware and how those connections are working. So that's sort of the extra bonus features you get with ProPack. If you reach out to your salesperson, Jacob, Ivan, Jeff, Sandy, they can give you a detailed breakdown of the full list of features that are in Nebula Free versus the Nebula Pro Pack. Another really important thing here before we go on is, again, Nebula Pro Pack is very cheap. So almost compare it to Meraki, and access point with Nebula should run you $30 to $35 per access point per year, versus Meraki, where you're generally looking at around $150 per access point per year. And with Nebula, if for some reason that Pro Pack license lapses, it simply falls back into the standard free Nebula mode. With Meraki, if your licenses lapse, you get locked out and can't make any configuration changes to your devices. Okay, so going forward, so some of the other Pro Pack features we'll go into a little bit more depth here. One of them is we give you more granular control of bandwidth on your switches with the Pro Pack. So we have a lot of customers using Nebula, and specifically Nebula Pro in hospitality. So one of the cool features we added is an IPTV report feature. So Nebula will automatically manage your IPTV solution. It gives you access to more advanced multicast features, and we generate reports that let you know who's watching what channels for how long. We also can give you alerts to things that we witness that we believe are degrading the performance of that IPTV stream. Because after all, nobody likes drop packets or buffering and things like that. So we'll generate a report, say, hey, we saw these issues, and we'll even give you suggestions and tell you this is what you need to change to fix that, to improve the quality of our IPTV. Here's a report right here to give you a little breakdown. We'll skip through that. We have a new wireless health report. It currently only works on our Wave 2 access points. It'll also work on all new access points that are coming out, including our 11AX. And it gives you sort of the same thing here. We give you a dedicated report that looks at the quality of your wireless connections, and we'll let you know, hey, you know, this wireless client device has a really poor connection. This is what we're seeing. It's probably being caused by co-channel interference. It's probably being caused because the user is too far away from any available access points. So it's really good for troubleshooting wireless issues, especially in a hospitality scenario. So some of the other things we do here with the Pro Pack is we make it easier for you to set up new sites or new customers. We give you the ability to clone existing sites, right? Because when you're setting up a new network, chances are, 85, 90, 95% of the configuration is probably going to be the same as some existing customer you've already set up. So you can clone that site and then just adjust the things that need to be changed. We give you the ability to back up and create restore points. And we give you the ability to use configuration templates, allowing you to make a template change and push out a specific change across multiple sites. So again, just things there that make your life easier and speed up the process of setting up and deploying networks for your customers. And we've added Facebook Wi-Fi. So just a quick breakdown, Facebook Wi-Fi is different than Facebook Login. So the free version of Nebula allows you to use Facebook Login for guest access. Facebook Wi-Fi is a different service from Facebook, which adds some more functionality, basically kind of forces the user to check in at your business before getting onto the guest network. So that only works with the professional pack. So that's it for Pro Pack features. I want to highlight again, if you want a complete breakdown of what's in the free version versus what's in the professional pack, just reach out to your salesperson and they can provide that for you. It's a big old spreadsheet. It doesn't look nice in a PowerPoint. So we'll talk a little bit about the other type of license we offer. This is only available on the NSG security gateways. This is completely independent of whether you're using the free version or the pro version of Nebula. And it is our UTM licenses. So if you want to offer UTM on the gateway, that's antivirus, content filtering, application intelligence, IDP, et cetera, you do have to have an active and valid security license. All of our Nebula security gateways include 1 year of this license out of the box. So when you're first buying the hardware, there's no reason to buy an additional license, but in a year, you'll need to renew it. So application awareness It allows us to generate reports and tell you what's going on in your network based on the individual application. It also allows us to go through and make firewall rules based on, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself here on slides, so I apologize. It allows us to create rules in the firewall that are based on individual applications. So instead of needing to worry about protocols and IP addresses and ports, you can simply go in there and say, I want to block Facebook Messenger, or I want to block Facebook Messenger video chat. So this greatly simplifies what you need to know to be able to configure some advanced firewall rules, as well as giving us a bunch of different reports on what's going on the network. The antivirus functionality, again, in addition to blocking the suspicious files, it'll generate a report and let you know what's going on there. The content filtering has reports to let you know who's been trying to visit blocked pages or which pages people are trying to go through, so you know if maybe you've accidentally blocked something that shouldn't be blocked. So to summarize all of that for you guys here, there's Nebula Free. There's the Professional Pack. The Professional Pack is available as an annual license. We also sell it as a perpetual one-time buy license, and that license is locked to your customer account. It is not locked to the individual piece of hardware. So if you need to swap out something, or you decide to upgrade the network, replace an 8-port switch with a 24-port switch, replace a AC access point with an 11AX Wi-Fi 6 access point, you won't need to buy a new license. You simply remove the hardware from that customer site and add in the new hardware, no additional license required. And then we've got the Security Pack, which is separate from the Professional Pack license. So a quick rundown on some of the hardware we've got out there. On the security gateways, we've got 4 different gateways for you. The primary differences between these gateways is the number of ports that they have built in on them and the throughput that they can achieve through them. So when you're trying to decide which security gateway to go with, that's what you're looking at here. Do I need 2 WANs? Do I need 3 WANs? And what sort of throughput do I need? And that'll depend based on whether you're simply using it as a firewall device or whether you're using those UTM features. UTM features, we're doing a lot of processing on the packets, so that obviously is going to degrade performance. So figure out how fast their internet connection is, whether you're going to be using UTM or not, and that'll tell you which one to go with. On the switch side of things, we've got a lot of switches here. This is just showing you sort of a breakdown. If it's an NSW series switch, it includes 1 year of ProPack. And I forgot to update this slide. The GS 1920-8 does not include 1 year of ProPack. So basically anything that's GS 1920v2 or anything that's XGS 1930 is also Nebula Flex. So you can manage it with Nebula, but it does not include any ProPack with it. If you want to use the ProPack features, you will need to buy a license in addition to the hardware. And now for access points. We've got a lot of access points out there. So the NAP series access points all include 3 years of ProPack out of the box when you first activate them. Our Nebula Flex access points, which are the NWA 1100 and 1300 series, those do not include any ProPack. So if you want the ProPack features, you will have to buy the ProPack license. And then all of the WAC access points are what we call Nebula Flex Pro, as is the NWA 5123 ACHD. Those all include 1 year of ProPack out of the box, which will automatically be applied when you first add the device to a customer's site. And right now for the NWA 5123 ACHD and the WAC 6303, if you activate them on a customer site before the end of this year, you'll get a bonus extra 2 years of ProPack, so 3 years total. So just on those 2 models, and only if they get activated at the customer site before the end of the year. So if you want to take advantage of that, you got to act this year. So that is it pretty much for today's presentation. If you want to play around with Nebula, we do have a live demo site. Simply go to nebula.zyxel.com. Click the login button, and you'll see on the screen there we have a demo account username and password which you can use to access our demo site. And if you are part of our partner program, you are one of our resellers, reach out to your sales rep here at Zyxel. Again, Ivan, Jacob, Jeff, or Sandy and they can get you hooked up with a live demo good for 60 days. So they'll send you out some Nebula hardware you can plug in and use in your own lab or test it out at a customer site, and then you just need to either return it to us at the end of the 60 days, or we'll sell it to you at a discounted price at the end of those 60 days. So, you know, if you like what you saw, or it sounds interesting for you, you might see some benefits, please give it a try. Get a free demo kit, log into nebula.zyxel.com. And with that, that concludes today's presentation. So things are over there. If you have any questions, send them in with the Q&A interface. If you have any feedback for me, my email is right there on the screen, seanr@zyxel.com. So more complex questions or just general ideas. You know, we put these webinars together to try to benefit you. Tuesday, I did a sort of a basics of Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi 101 webinar. We also talked about what Wi-Fi 6 is, and some of the things to look out for and some of the reasons why you might be interested in it. I know Tri does a bunch of different ones. Marcus does a bunch of different webinars. But we need to know from you what you're looking for from us. What sort of webinar is beneficial for you? Do you need more product overviews? Do you need specific applications? Do you need to know how to configure different things? Do you just need more basic general technology stuff? Email us. Let us know what you're looking for. We use your feedback to decide which new webinars to create and broadcast. Okay, on to questions. The first one here is from Donald Howard. I'm answering that live. If you're on Facebook, unfortunately, I can't see your question. So those watching on Facebook, I'm sorry, but if you're using Zoom, you can send me questions with the Q&A. So Donald was asking deal registration. So yes, if you are a Zyxel partner, there are some benefits. Now, to be a Zyxel partner, it's not too hard. There is an application on our website that you fill out. So by being a partner, you get access to resources you wouldn't normally have. You get priority access to our US-based tech support, and you get access to deal registration to lock in additional discounts just for you, so you're the only one that gets those on a deal. We also have some trade-in programs, either trading up from older hardware or trading in from competitive hardware to get you additional discounts. We also work with Leaf Financial, so you can to help make it easier for you to get financing if you need financing for some of your deals. Leaf also offers the ability to manage leasing, so you can offer lease deals for your customers, and you don't have to worry about managing that. You set them up, you get it installed, and then Leaf takes over as far as getting the payments on those leases and removing the hardware when those leases are up. So those are all things that you need to be part of our partner program. So you do need to be a reseller or managed service provider to join the program and get access to that. One of the other benefits is you get automatic discounts at distribution above and beyond the typical distribution discount. We've got a couple different tiers of discounts, so as a partner you can get up to an additional 20% off all Zyxel equipment purchased through distribution automatically. No forms that need to be filled out, no deal regs, nothing like that. Okay, so that's it for that question. We've got another question here. Do the APs offer a mesh network? And is that managed through the Nebula Portal? So yes, that is our smart mesh functionality I was talking about earlier. It is something you literally just turn on with the flick of a toggle button in the Nebula interface. And then it'll automatically create the meshes for you. Now you do need to have at least one access point with a hardwired connection. That's your backhaul into your network. Any additional access points, simply plug them in and give them power. You will see that they do not have a working Ethernet connection. So we'll see whether they're connected to Ethernet and whether or not they can pass traffic. If they cannot, they will automatically go into smart mesh mode, and we'll find other neighboring Zyxel access points to create a mesh with, and that mesh will eventually find that one or more access points that have a hard connection and route all traffic through the mesh to the local network that way. So yes, it's absolutely there. It's easy to turn on and off, and it simply works. There's no real configuration that you need to do. It'll automatically reroute around nodes that go offline. It'll automatically enable and disable itself in case something goes on, such as you temporarily unplug an access point while doing maintenance. As long as it's still got power, it'll automatically switch over into mesh mode until it sees that its Ethernet connection has been reestablished. One more question here. Can we configure WAN and LAN IP addresses for the NSA G units via Nebula? So yes, All of that generally can be done through Nebula. Now, in order for your product to be able to reach out to Nebula and download its configuration, it does need to be able to get an IP address. So generally on most networks you've got DHCP, but obviously especially on your security gateway, that WAN connection, you may not have DHCP on your WAN for security reasons or convenience reasons, that's fine. So when you initially set up the WAN IP address in that scenario, you will need to directly go into the device and tell it what its WAN IP address is. Once you have done that and once it reaches out to the cloud to Nebula, you then can manage the WAN and LAN IP addresses through the Nebula cloud. Another thing here we'll just bring up here is there is a major update to Nebula rolling out. As some of you might remember, we were originally planning to have a major update in September. It got pushed back a month. So it will be, I believe, officially launched this coming Sunday. And we will have a webinar, November's booked up, so probably in December where we'll talk about those new features that have been rolled into this new update. One of the new things we've got is a beta that you can opt yourself into, where we're betaing our new GUI interface for Nebula. So you can give that a try. You can switch back and forth between the new look and feel or the current Nebula look and feel based on your own preferences. At some point in the future, that new look and feel will become the standard Nebula interface. So I don't have any more questions in here. So if you have some more questions for me or my answer didn't satisfy you, copy and paste that into a new email, send it to me, sean@zyxel.com, and I will answer you myself via email later. Or just reach in and call in to your salesperson and they can get the answer for you. So without any further delay, I'm ending today's webinar. Again, thank you guys for joining us and provide us feedback. Do this webinar suck? Are there different webinars different topics, different things you'd like to see us put into future webinars? Let us know so we can put those together for you. Thanks, everybody.